The new Florida Halo law has nothing to do with officer safety, has everything to do with undermining our constitutional rights, and I will be challenging it in a federal court. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, guys? Long Island Audit here, back again with another video. First and foremost, I am coming to you live from Texas. Thank you all for joining me. Hit that like button and share this video. I want to apologize in advance for my voice. I have been screaming all weekend long. I am in Texas for my son Mason Reyes football travel tournament, and I'm happy to announce that we went 3-0. I'm so proud of him. He is a defensive end and tight end, and he would love it. I told him I would give him a shout out here on my channel. So this is his football Instagram. He has 82 followers. If you guys would be so kind, let's get him to 1,000 followers. My son would absolutely love it. I'm so proud of him. He got sacked. He got a sack during his play and during the game after we won the tournament. Excuse me. We got this nice, cool championship ring here. Very cool. So stay on the lookout for Mason Reyes, number 9. He is going to be doing big things. Now that I plugged my amazing son, I'm so proud of you, Mason. Thank you. I'm going to bring up my guests, my business partners and friends, David and Andy. And Lackluster should be joining us, so we'll see about that. He might be experiencing some technical difficulties. David, Andy, it's always good to see you guys.
Yes, sir. Good to be
Thanks,
here.
Sean. Appreciate you having us on, buddy.
All right, guys. So we're here to talk about, is our Constitution under attack with this new Florida Halo law is what they're calling it, where you cannot come within 25 feet of a first responder. You cannot harass, intimidate, or I forget the exact verbiage. We'll bring it up here. Let me pull up So Florida new law shields responders. Critics say it's aimed at curbing videos of cops. So the way that David and Andy, the way that they form the law, it's first responders. So it encompasses firefighters, it encompasses law enforcement, paramedics. But we all know, all of you watching, David, Andy, we all know it is exactly to do with law enforcement. It has nothing else to do with any other type of paramedics or firefighters, any other first responders. It has to do with shielding law enforcement from accountability and from transparency and violating our constitutional rights. So if we see here, it is Florida's new law protecting first responders from people impeding, threatening, or harassing them goes into effect January 1st. So the law is currently in effect. Impeding, threatening, or harassing seems pretty vague to me. There was a similar law. We were talking about this backstage, David. There's a similar law passed in Arizona where you cannot film law enforcement officers within 20 feet. That was passed in 2022 and struck down in 2022 by a federal district court judge. Right. And, what are your guys' thoughts on it before we have some videos that we're going to take a look at that show why this law is very dangerous for our constitutional rights, for transparency, and for accountability. So, if you want to give me your thoughts before we get into the video.
Yeah, I'll start first. I think this is clearly a law that's in search of a problem. Here's the deal. It says first responders, and I think they lumped in first responders so that it was it's sort of a smokescreen. It's clear that if somebody's putting out a fire or performing CPR on somebody and there are people recording, paramedics don't have the authority to arrest. The paramedics and firefighters don't have the authority to tell people to get back 25 feet, right? And so the only people who are going to be doing that are the police officers. And so, look, we can play games and say that, oh, this is, so that we don't have people harassing police. And I actually would agree with that if that was really the problem. And if that's how the law would be implemented, amongst police. But we know well and good what this is all about. This was sort of an election year gift to the police by the Florida legislature and Governor DeSantis. They know that it's going to go down in flames in federal court, but they still got the political points at the time they did it. And there you go. So that's my take on it at a high level.
Yeah, and I think this bill actually has good intentions, from a high level of protecting, first responders in the moment from someone who's maybe off the chains or whatever the case. But there's so much gray area here where, the harassing component What does that look like? What's the discretion? It's extremely vague, and I think it's ripe for abuse.
Right. And that, it will be challenged in a court of law. That is for sure. If not by somebody else, definitely by me. I'm currently in Texas, but I will definitely be challenging it. If not in actual person, going within 25 feet, because 25 feet, it's pretty far. You're not going to be able to get the right audio. You're not going to be able to see certain things that you could within, let's say, 15 feet. Again, I think the hard line of 25 feet is what's going to get them in trouble with this law, and the vagueness of it, and the fact that it violates our First Amendment rights. I want to say thank you to the Angry Vet. He gifted 50 Long Island Audit memberships. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Yeah, of course, they're trying to hide transparency. I'm watching the chat at the same time. So we got some videos pulled up here. Let me cue them up. So this was from Miami Beach Police Department. This was a couple years ago, but it illustrates the fact that when law enforcement officers are committing crimes, they are violating our constitutional rights, committing crimes against we the people. And when someone, a good citizen like myself, goes to record them and hold them accountable, this is what happens to them.
Taking Mr. Crudup into custody. You'll see, and then we're going to focus on the interaction with Caleb Vaughn after this. So at this point, George, if you could play the video, please. You'll see Mr. Crudup getting to the elevator. You'll see Lieutenant Jose Reyna, who follows Mr. Crudup into the hotel, catching up to him at the hotel elevator. He holds him at gunpoint. Mr. Crudup has his hands raised and he drops to the ground, and now his arms are outstretched in front of him. He then places his hands behind his back as Lieutenant Reyna kneels to apparently begin placing Mr. Crudup in handcuffs. Other Miami Beach police officers.
You can see right here, I just want to point out, while this assault is being taken place by law enforcement officers who are supposed to uphold the law, you're going to see an officer kick this man in his head. But you see the man he's recording. His First Amendment right, he's not getting involved, and then he eventually backs up, as you'll see.
Arrive on the scene. And if you can stop just there, if you could roll back just a little bit, George, I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch it as you can see, it moves very slowly, so we're trying to. Okay, you'll see there, Officer Kevin Perez kicking Mr. Crudup. According to the video, Mr. Caleb Vaughn seems to be a bystander in the hotel lobby, and he appears to be standing approximately 12 to 15 feet away from the apprehension of Mr. Crudup. And Mr. Vaughn appears to begin filming the scene with looks like his cell phone, at which point Officer Robert Sabater arrives on the scene approximately 30 seconds after Mr. Vaughn first began filming without incident. You're seeing, go back to that again, please. George, could you roll that back? Yeah. So you see, we think the officer's here saying back up, and you'll see him take about 4 steps back with his camera. Now,
even when you comply and you back up, they still don't care. It's not about the distance. It's about the fact that you are recording them engaging in criminal behavior. Law enforcement officers, as we've seen in countless of my videos, hate cameras. They just hate it.
What's important here, Sean, too, is you look at the individual. He comes out of the elevator, gets on the ground, puts his hands up behind his back.
Right.
Got officers pulling him in this direction, officers in that direction, pulling his arms up. So it's almost like he's trying to come up, and you got other officers pushing him down. So does each officer know whether or not this guy is resisting, because he's been being pulled in all these different directions? And then you've got this guy sitting in the background who's coming into the hotel, most likely a guest. I don't know that to be fact, but I'm assuming he's a guest. He has a shopping bag in one hand, his phone in the other. He's experiencing what's going on in Miami. I mean, this is typical Miami. And he's watching this with his cell phone, not knowing that he's about to be a victim, in this incident with what he's doing. So you can clearly see that this guy isn't a threat. He's got a smile on his face. It almost seems it kind of comical that when you look at his face and the way he's smiling and laughing, that the way he's backing up. So I'm assuming at this point, and this is an assumption, that the officer is saying something very aggressive to him to make him back up, because he's looking at it as in, are you being serious here? Like, it almost seems comical that they're forcing him backwards.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then as you'll see what happens here, it's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah,
And
that
it-
seems
and-
to be the look on his face is
Yeah.
sort of, yeah,
Are you
kidding?
serious?
Are you kidding me? Are you
serious?
serious?
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I just going back to the beginning of the video, first off, how many police officers does it take to take down a complying 150-pound kid, right? And when you watch this video, and we can go back to it if we need to, but those officers are literally tripping over themselves to get a piece of the action, right? Like
Right.
it's almost like
You see
if
him
I get to
falling,
touch the guy,
running in and falling, trying to get
yeah,
into
there,
it.
and if anybody who's seen the video, or if we can leave links for the video in the in this this live, but if you continue to watch the videos, there are at least two officers that crawl out of that pylon because they're getting probably the shit beat out of them too. And it's like my deal is just, where is the professionalism? How many officers does it take? Are you thinking about your training? Do you have any training? Are you following your training? It just blows my mind, but we can continue.
Well,
The
and what
Right.
this stemmed
So
from,
he
when I
does
read
back
the
up. He
when I
does
read
back
the
up
article, it
4
stems
steps.
from
Go ahead, Danny.
this guy doing an illegal parking on a scooter, like a motor scooter, and
Right.
it was parked in there, and then he ended up running. So he did flee. So I understand the chase, but you can see the result of that chase. You know what took place and how aggressive it became.
All right. So he does back up, and then look what happens next, ladies and gentlemen.
You see Officer Saboteur running in and tackling him there.
And this guy's just videoing on the side.
Yeah,
I'm just
hold it right there.
Oh,
Welcome
hold
to
on.
Now what
Miami.
you see is after he's tackled, this is actually, these are his shorts, and that's a fist right there. And watch what happens next. I'm sorry, but it's all we have. It's what it is. So if you could play that, George, please. Now what you see there is a series of punches in the back rib cage area or kidney area, but it's on the back. You see that there? So because of those actions that you just saw, Miami Beach Police Officer Robert Saboteur is being charged today. Now we have the body-worn camera video of Officer David Rivas, who appears to show Mr. Vaughn actively backing away from the Officer Rivas. Remember when you saw that initially? But nonetheless, Officer Saboteur then pins Mr. Vaughn against the column. Well, approximately 12 seconds later, while he's being handcuffed, you can see from the videos, and we just went through this, roll that back again, that's Officer Rivas, thank you, who's repeatedly striking Mr. Vaughn, as I said, in the ribcage area until he's ultimately brought to the ground. And so for this reason, for these actions, Miami Beach Police Officer David Rivas is being charged today. Taking Mr. Crudup into...
As you see, this is why this law is so dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, is because those officers were charged, which normally never happens. I mean, this is very egregious. It's on video that, they have them caught red-handed. So they were charged, but in a world with this Florida Halo law, those officers, all they would have to do is say, he was intimidating me, he was harassing me, he was, threatening me. And it's so vague that they would be able to charge him with this misdemeanor that carries up to a year in jail and get away with it, because this is a law. It's been passed by the Florida State Legislature, and that's really scary. So we have another video. If you have any thoughts, David, while I pull this up, go ahead. Or
Yeah,
Andy.
I'll gotta get my camera straight here though.
He's just filming. Like, I don't understand. Like he's literally just filming, and these cops just go from beating another man to not beating him.
Right. So let's remember, this happened a few years ago, right?
Right.
Before the law even went into effect, and still, the guy complies and backs up and still gets a nice beat down. It's like they came in today for a 2-for-1, right? And so, at the end of the day, I just can't imagine being that guy, because my inclination would have been to film as well. And I would have never imagined that, if just by filming police, I would end up getting a beat down, and I believe the guy got arrested. And so the question I have for people who live in Miami, but also in Florida in general, how much is that going to cost Miami, right? 2 beat downs in one day that are both illegal, right? And then every time this happens, how much is that going to cost taxpayers? Because ultimately you put the bill for it. The officers don't pay for it. The mayor doesn't pay for it. The chief doesn't pay for it. You, the taxpayer, do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what happens. Cops don't lose their pensions. Cops don't, even in the case with Mr. Brooks from the Marcy Correctional Facility, one of the correctional officers resigned or retired, one of the two. He resigned or retired immediately after the body camera footage surfaced. Now, per New York state law, he is entitled to his pension. Whether he goes to prison, whether he's charged, he goes to prison for the rest of his life, it doesn't matter. He has a right to his pension now that he was not convicted of a crime. And I'm going to be advocating for the New York State legislature to do something about that, because you viciously beat Robert Brooks and then you resign, retire. And now, because you weren't convicted of any crimes while you were a correctional officer, technically you are entitled to that pension. Your family's entitled to that pension. And, in that video, one of the officers said, why don't you donate your money to victims? Like, I don't create victims. Law enforcement officers create victims. So, and they definitely do not donate any of their money to charity or to the victims. And even in lawsuits, they are given qualified immunity. They're protected in every single way. So it's absolutely disgusting. So I'm going to pull up this next video David shared with me. It's of Justin Pulliam. I'm sure the corruption report. It's not from his channel, but it involves him. It's from the Fort Bend County Sheriff here in Texas. Again, I am in Texas right now. Let's take a look.
Be careful.
Yeah, I will.
I go and obtain permission first from the property owner to film for the individual's safety beyond where the police vehicles are parked. And there's no incident happening anywhere near me. I'm a far distance away. A couple minutes later, the deputy sergeant arrived. He walks up to me and he is basically excluding me, making me leave where I will not be able to document what's actually happening. I turn around to leave and I'm walking off. Everyone was leaving, but then everyone else went back to talk. And so I was like, well, is it for safety? What's the deal? Is everyone leaving, or is it just me leaving? He wouldn't say, no, only you are leaving. Then he starts marching up to me, counting down from 5. I am walking backwards away from him, and he arrests me.
That's clear. I also have Lieutenant William in custody for interfering. Drop another case number for that one.
It's scary, and I basically don't film deputies much anymore, but I very much fear retaliation. So I think that's one of their goals, and they succeeded. And it's not just the arrest. It wasn't just one officer. It was the administration. And then it was the district attorney. And
Right.
that all in combination is incredibly chilling. If they'll do that, I worry that at any second, they're going to be barging through my door to take my server with all my other video files.
All right. So that's Justin Pulliam. He has the corruption report here on YouTube. Go check out his channel. As you could see, he is taking steps back. Again, these are incidents where nothing is being escalated. No one's in the officer's face. No one is jeopardizing officer safety in any way. They're not interfering physically, or they're not even in a close amount of distance, and they do back up. And yet this officer, this sheriff deputy, counts down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, put your hands behind your back, confiscates his equipment. That's it. You're under arrest. Forget what I was doing here. This is not important anymore. The person who's filming me and recording me and exercising a constitutional right that I swore an oath to uphold is now the problem and the threat. And that's the mentality of some of these law enforcement officers, when they just hate accountability. They hate transparency. You see, if you read what he said, is that he went to the police station, had his camera confiscated. He went to the police station for several hours, and the police chief says, "Oh, well," and he gets mad at him for not speaking without an attorney. And we've seen that, David, on Attorney Shield, right? We've
We
seen that
have.
with our members on Attorney Shield. When we're reviewing these videos and people are sending us these videos, we're seeing these law enforcement officers get extremely uncomfortable, irate, become unprofessional, and they're like, "You don't need to speak to your attorney," and they get really mad that you have attorneys representing you.
Yeah, I want to say that we have seen that. I want to also say, thank goodness it's the exception, not the norm. Most of the police officers that you see in our the videos that we've been able to share, sort of recognize the fact that the Sixth Amendment exists, and that this person does have a right to that individual as they're being detained and questioned by police. But as you saw in a video released a few weeks ago, there was one in particular intense exchange where the police officer insisted that the member sign the ticket right now, and all the member wanted to do is ask the attorney, what does it mean to sign the ticket, because he doesn't have to take the officer's word for it, right? And the officer went as far as he badgered him, and he went as far as threatening to arrest him. Thank goodness, the attorney simply told the guy to tell the officer 1 minute. And the beauty is that it's on video. And so there's nothing really that officer could have sort of claimed in terms of a violation to arrest that kid. But, this does happen, and it's unfortunate, but that's why we're here.
All right, for sure. That's why we exist. And if you want to see, just really quick, everyone, if you want to see some of these police encounters that we have with Attorney Shield, or if you'd like to sign up, you can do so in the link in the description. We also have a YouTube channel. We have like 5,000 subscribers, so go subscribe there. David and Andy are going to be uploading content. I'm going to be contributing over there as well, so it's going to be a little bit different. But you can see different interactions, different things going on. David and Andy are good on camera. David, you do a lot of great videos on all the social media for Attorney Shield, so pretty cool. I saw a comment in here that said like all 1A auditors in Florida are like intimidated by law enforcement. They're on probation, they're doing community service. And I've always said it, Florida, I've done audits in Florida, and I'm very, very careful because Florida is literally a police state. I have family in Florida, so I visit Florida frequently. We travel for football. As I said, my son was playing here in Texas, and I'm always very careful to, watch exactly what I'm doing in Florida, because the people, number one, if you go to a jury trial, the people in Florida love their sheriffs. They're on social media, they're making videos, the wheel of the most wanted, and all these different things. They're doing game shows, and they're like social media personalities, and the people love their sheriffs. And you would think, and it's okay, listen, you love your sheriff, by all means, go love your sheriff, but you cannot love your sheriff to the detriment of your fellow Americans' constitutional rights. That you cannot do. You cannot turn a blind eye to, your fellow Americans' rights being violated because you think that filming law enforcement and First Amendment activities are harassing an officer, or let them do their job, and all these different things that they say, you're just trying to harass them or whatever. We're just filming. We're just recording. There's never been any, they talk about officer safety. I was actually recording in Florida the other day, and I say the other day, but it was a couple weeks ago, and the officer's like, "Well, you need to back up for officer safety." And I said, "Well, what basis do you say that, right? What basis do you think that your safety is in jeopardy?" There's never, ever been a case that I know of where someone with a camera has hurt a law enforcement officer. Not one.
Well, that's what I meant
There's-
by this law is looking for a problem to solve, because
right,
there's not one.
exactly. You were
And
right when you say that.
yeah, it's so here's the deal. Look, with respect to, I can understand an officer not wanting to be filmed. I get it, right? I don't want to be filmed if I'm sitting here doing my job, right? But you know what? If I'm outside in plain view and plain sight, and somebody's filming me, and I'm a construction worker, I've got no say so in that, right? And why officers believe that they should be given some, preferential treatment, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, Florida, you know, police state, maybe, right? But I think it depends on where you are, because I do believe that there are some areas in Florida that feel like a police state. But the reality is the way in which these sheriffs, and it's generally the sheriffs, right, the elected individual,
Right.
they're playing this popularity contest by, dragging perps in front of, the camera, and basically saying, if you do this, you'll be here too, right? It's like,
It's so
what's up with
hypocritical, though.
that? it, it,
How
it
do you,
is. And so, but dude, so just next to us, over in Clay County, the sheriff played that stuff all the time, but he ended up getting out. He had to resign because he was sleeping around with one of his deputies, and he's a married guy, and ended up sort of doing favors for her and stuff like that. And so these guys who play that game generally just end up being corrupt guys anyways, right?
Well, that's
And
very,
so
it's very police state over on the West Coast as well, and I think even some of those sheriffs, and I don't recall the name of him, but there's at least one of them over there on the Brady list. So it's an unfortunate thing that when you have a little bit of power like that, you try to pound the nail with the hammer, and we as the citizens end up being the nail. And it's not what's the old saying? Don't do as I do, do as I say. Something similar to that. And that's what you see, a lot of these instances where they take advantage of it, or it's the good old boy system. Their deputies can do these things. Sean, you've had a lot of videos on these where you've got a tinted video plate or a tinted plate over your license plate cover, and you get a ticket for it. It's illegal, and yet you go and film, their yard at the police station, and there's 2 or 3 of them in there with people with tinted plate covers. It's like, well, how come the police can do it? And this is their personal vehicles, not patrol cars. So, it's kind of one of those, do as I say, not as I do down here in Florida. And it can be intimidating, even when someone knows their rights. I've been there. You get back to the old kind of boogeyman story of, you see the old blue lights in the rearview mirror, and it's still a scary thing. And it's not scary because I think the guy's going to beat me up or kill me right away, but it's scary of what does the stop look like? Did I do something wrong? I don't recall doing something wrong, but now I'm going to be harassed and or ticketed. It's going to mess up my insurance. It's going to mess up, your afternoon, maybe your day, could affect your job. And, and then are they going to lie? And they have the right to lie, the ability to lie and just make shit up all the time. That's the problem. It's the
yeah,
abuse of
Andy, I
power.
just
It's the abuse
a
of
little.
power, the PTSD that they experience with all of the bad people. And just because you're a good person and now they come in and take all those other bad people and put that on you, and, you're not that person. So, David, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Andy, I just want to just a small point. Like, in some places in Florida, I do worry that I'm going to get killed because
Well, I could see that with you, David.
and so let's just be clear that this law does nothing to help, because here's what I fear. And so let's just talk about some of the mechanics of the law. Here's what I fear is that it would be kind of okay, but it's still not, that if you're filming the police and you just sort of in their way, they just, hey, can you back up? And you back up. But with this law, you could be filming across the street, but that street's not 25 feet wide, and the officer says back up, and if there's a chain link fence behind you or some wall, you've got to walk down the street. But also,
right.
if there's not, what happens when the officer walks across the street to where you are? Do you have to back up another 25 feet? Florida is sort of this stand your ground state, right, where you shouldn't have to be intimidated and run away from somebody who's threatening you. Well, that police officer is threatening you, and do you have to sort of retreat down the street 25 feet at a time because they're running you down? We don't know how this thing is going to turn out, but I guarantee
Right.
you this: that law is ripe for abuse,
Right
and
for
it's going to be abused. It's going to be. Mark my
Right.
words.
I mean, it's pretty clear. The way it's written, it's very vague. It's just, harassment, impeding. There's already, David, there's already an obstruction statute. So, again, like you said, they're solving for a problem that there is no problem. This was meant to, I'm sure the police unions throughout Florida, the fraternal order of, police were all involved in this, and they want this to happen because they're tired of people like me recording their traffic stops, recording, incidents that they're having, and they don't want to be on YouTube. They obviously their ego always gets the best of them. We see it time and time again. I have, over 500 videos on this channel of just time and time and again, law enforcement officers allowing their ego to get involved, and then they blow up, and then they get a bunch of phone calls because people are peacefully petitioning their grievance to their government, which is another First Amendment right. And again, I think it's so important to point out that especially in Florida and in Arizona, where they passed this law as well, where it was a similar law where you couldn't film within 20 feet in Arizona in 2022, there is the Pinal County Sheriff's, Frank Slope. He is very popular on social media, and he films all the traffic stops. He has a cameraman with him. And yet, he gets mad at people when they're recording him. He gets a little bit unprofessional, and he's like, are you going to give me your ID because you're recording me? And, he tries to, equate recording with some sort of, and that's what they always try to do. Because you're recording, you're going to be difficult. You're going to harass them. You're going to try and obstruct them. But as we've seen in my videos and many other activist videos, recording in and of itself isn't any of those things, and it doesn't have to be. But it's so hypocritical that the Florida sheriffs, they continually use social media. You've seen the videos. I'm sure everyone's seen the videos where, they have the suspect on the ground, and they're like, you come to X county in Florida, and we're going to make sure that you're sitting on the ground right here too, and you're dealing drugs, and you're doing this and that. And they do it. And again, they say, oh, you do your videos for clicks and likes. What are they doing it for? And where does that money that they're making? Because some of these, sheriffs get,
they're monetized.
Something good to look into. Where does that social media money going to? Is it going to the people? Is it going to the sheriff's pocket? Again, I want to address one thing before we get into the next video. The next video is I think it's the craziest it's our last video, and I think it's the craziest one because it escalates so quickly. You might have discussed this already. This is from Scalzo Photo, friend of mine. But is it 25 feet from the subject / police action, or is it 25 feet from any officer? The second will definitely be abused to push people back unreasonably. So I'm not exactly sure if it's the subject or the police action. Like if it doesn't clarify. I'm pretty sure it's from wherever the officer is operating in his official duties and whatever else they're going to say. And again, it's 25 feet. It's like a little buffer area zone where, you can't go. And again, this is going to be this law just went into effect. It was passed last year, but it just went into effect this year, January 1st. And I'm sure someone is going to challenge it. So let's take a look at the video here. Oh, I forgot to share it. Look how quickly this is.
Can I help you? No. Okay. Can you please step back? No. Or you'll be arrested for obstructing. Yeah, I cannot do my job with you video recording me right next to my car.
I cannot do my job with you video recording me next to my vehicle. He was literally just sitting in his vehicle listening to music. He wasn't doing a job. He was listening to the radio. He was listening to the radio sitting in an empty parking lot. And this woman comes over to exercise her First Amendment right. And he's like, immediately gets out of the car, stop recording, back up, or you're going to be arrested for obstruction. Like instantly, the escalation of these encounters is what really boggles my mind. There's no de-escalation, nothing.
They go right into intimidation and threats.
Right.
Look, obstruction requires a physical act.
I like this lady.
Physically obstructing me.
No, I'm not.
I cannot continue my investigation with you coming up to my car.
Call your sergeant.
Just your friend?
Or timber tech or Trex composite tech.
You work a little hard with the radio on.
Yeah, it's the IKEA 80th anniversary sale. We've got over 1,000 offers on our items.
I just don't understand the butthurt nature of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
50% on everything. I'm getting ready for college.
Please step away, ma'am.
Anyone else who wants
I am away.
You can stand over there on the
There
curb.
is no distance, and you don't have to.
You can stand over the curb. I don't have a cover. You can stand over
You're
there.
fine. I ain't gonna hurt you. Not even armed.
Look how far she
Yes,
is.
you are. You got a knife.
you got a knife. You hear that?
Call your sergeant.
I'll take cover.
Let me put this out. I'm trying to put the thing out.
You can put it on the ground.
I don't
Put it
know.
on the ground, or I'll put you on the ground.
Just-
Ma'am, stop.
Just a fucking minute, please. Let me. Thank you. Call your sergeant.
Well, you have no problem coming here. Drop it. Okay, you can set this down now.
No.
You're not let. No.
Breaking the law right now.
Well, good thing the deputy chief is my cover.
Where's the
Yeah.
knife?
Good
Yeah,
thing the
where's the
deputy
knife?
chief is my cover.
Yeah,
Of
where's
course
the
it is.
knife? Where's the knife?
Right.
You know, let me tell you something. I've seen this so many times where officers verbalize a threat that doesn't exist, but because they say it, it's their cover, right? I
Right.
thought there was a knife. So when this guy sits down and gets in deposition, or when there's a internal affairs investigation and they're questioning this guy and interviewing him, he's going to say, well, you know, you heard me, I thought there was a knife. And it's such friggin' bullshit. And to me, the lack of a professionalism, the lack of sort of ethics. I mean, these guys threw ethics completely out the window whenever they get butthurt. And to me, I don't even know how to explain that. It blows my mind. So I'm gonna shut up
Such a
for a
quick
while.
escalation.
Hey, John, you've been through a lot of these where you've been engaged with law enforcement for whatever reason. Have you ran into this similar incident where they say, hey, we see a weapon of some sort, whether it be a knife or just anything, just you've got a weapon. Have you encountered that and quite often? And what was it? I mean, I could see where this would be abused as well. Well, it looked like he had a weapon, but it was just your camera, or it was your chest camera, etc.
I'm sorry. Was that a question? I'm sorry.
Have you
Yeah, yeah.
have you been
encountered that
accused
before?
of?
I've never been accused of having any sort of weapon. Oh, I have, because when I went to the police commissioner's house with my LED billboard truck, he's like, what do you got on you? You got any weapons on you? And I was like, I don't consent to any searches or seizures. I was on the sidewalk with the beautiful big billboard truck, exercising my First Amendment right. And he's like, well, I'm just going to pat you down and make sure. And again, this comes down to officer's ignorance of the law. He thinks because of Terry v. Ohio, he can just go up to anybody, the case law for Terry v. Ohio, that he can just go up to anybody and pat them down. That's not true. You need a reasonable suspicion that the person is armed. So just because you need articulable facts that somebody is armed, you can't just go pat down people and whenever you want. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. But he did, and a lot of the times it's not even worth it to file a lawsuit, because what are the damages for him tapping my my pockets? There's bigger things that I'm dealing with, especially when it comes to the Nassau County Police Department. But I've never really been accused of having any sort of weapon. Sometimes when it's cold outside, I do a lot of my audits in the cold. I'll have my hand in my pocket, and they're like, "Get your hands out of your pocket. Get your hands out of your pocket." And I don't, I might take it out for a second. They know that nothing's in the pocket. It's it's just their ego wanting to tell me what to do. That's what they want. They want to tell you to get out of the car, get in the car. And that's the problem. And that's why I think Attorney Shield, when we started this company, to help each and every American, I thought it was so important when it comes to traffic stops, because so many people don't understand what their rights are on a traffic stop. I've seen so many people get their car window broken because the officer, for whatever reason, tells them to get out of the car, and they're like, why do I, it's a broken taillight. Why do I need to get out of the car? I'm not getting out of the car. And then you don't get out of the car. I don't think you should have to get out of the car for having a broken taillight. But unfortunately, our court system has said, for officer safety, again, the officer can tell you to get out of the car, and people don't get out. They break the window. Now you get arrested for obstruction. You got to fix your window at your own expense. And those are things that can be avoided. I want people to go home safe without having their window broken, without being arrested, without having their constitutional rights violated. And that's why I think it's such a very important platform for people to utilize in order to protect their rights. I've been in situations where officers told me to get out of the car. I just get out of the car. I continue to film them, always film them. That's the beauty about Attorney Shield. You're filming them anyway with your attorney. But I continue to film them, and then I just, I'll do me personally. I don't advise this, but me personally, I'm like, well, you tell me out of the car. Are you scared? Is that why you're telling me to get out of the car, officer? Are you scared of me
Yeah,
for some reason?
I've heard you say that. So, hey,
Yeah,
Sean, I've got a follow up to that because
yeah. Go ahead.
look, this Florida law is really it's going to harm innocent people. We know this, right?
Right, it
And
is.
it's gonna have a chilling effect. And so there's two ways it's going to cause harm. It's going to give police sort of the concealment that they need in order to have another beat down whenever they want to, right? Or do whatever they like to do that they don't want filmed. But also the person filming is going to be harmed as well because they're going to arrest somebody based on this law. It's just going to happen. So the question I have for you, Sean, is knowing this law exists and knowing the law and how vague it is, what advice do you have for someone who sees something and wants to record and memorialize that event, but is concerned that by doing so, they're going to become sort of they're going to receive negative attention by the police officers and have to mitigate that? What advice would you give a person who wants to sort of display the courage of filming, but also be prepared for that interaction or that confrontation if it were to happen? Do you have
Right.
any thoughts
So
about that?
uh, David, the way I look at it is, this is my job. I am tasked with holding law enforcement accountable. I've been arrested a total of 10 times while auditing. It's not good anytime you've been arrested. It's horrible to have to be demeaned, have your freedom taken away, if you be strip searched, spend hours or days in jail, have to hire an attorney. It becomes very expensive. But for just an average person who is, wanting to film the police exercise their constitutional rights, you have every right to do that. My advice would be, and it's not legal advice, but my advice would be, is that, but my advice would be, is that just it depends on what you are willing to do, right? I don't think anybody should have to take the ride, to try and affect change. Leave that to me and other activists who are, wanting to affect change and are ready to take the ride, ready to pay the attorneys, who have a platform. If your rights are ever violated, contact me and I'll help you any way I can, by getting your story out there, whatever I can do, raise money for your attorneys. But my personal advice is to just, you know, comply with the officer, because at the end of the day, you're not going to win in the situation. You might ultimately win, but you're not going to win right there. I don't know your situation. I don't know if you have little kids at home. I don't know if, you have work the next day and you're going to get fired. There's so many different consequences that can come when getting unlawfully arrested. Whether you're even if it's unlawful, there can be a lot of consequences. And a lot of the time, police officers will get qualified immunity, and you can't even get compensation. For people say all the time, oh, you do this for filing lawsuits and, making all this money off lawsuits. I have not made tons of money off of lawsuits. Some municipalities have settled, for $10,000 here, $10,000 there, but there's not like some multi-million dollar payout for my. And I'll tell you one thing: $10,000 is not worth me losing my freedom. That is not a good exchange
It's
for me.
not. Not by
It
any
is.
stretch
It
of
is
the
not.
if you've ever been arrested, you'll know exactly what he means,
Yeah,
right?
it is not
It's
worth
not.
it.
Nobody goes to the pokey for 10K. You
Yeah,
wouldn't do it,
no.
and nobody who knows what that's like is going to do that.
Yeah, and that's 10K after you hired a lawyer, after you did all these things, and it's fought for months and months on end. It's like, as soon as you get out of jail, they're handing you a 10K check or 5K check. That's just, again, my advice though is to just protect yourself, protect your freedom, make sure that you are always protected. And again, I think Attorney Shield does that, and that's why we did it. We really
One
believe that. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I wouldn't do this. I don't do advertisements on my channel for all these different companies. I could. I don't do it because I don't believe in anything that they're trying to push me to, push on you. I believe in Attorney Shield's why I'm not being paid to promote Attorney Shield. I am a partner. We are co-owners in this, and I truly believe in it. And I think it's going to be good for our legacy, right? I want to leave a lasting impression on the world. I want to fundamentally change policing. I'm tired of just talking about police violating people's rights. I want to do something about it. I want to do something to protect them. And I think that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to add. One thing that I just want to let those in Florida know is that if you do find yourself in a position where you see something and you want to film the police, the sort of maybe the kill switch there that I've thought about is if they do approach you. So if they tell you to back up, back the heck up, right? Just follow their orders, right? Don't create a confrontation. But if they cross the street and now the focus of their attention is you, if you have attorney shield, hit the attorney button, get an attorney on the phone. And then at that point, I'd like to see them slap that out of your hand or arrest you for recording, right? Because at that point, that's a Sixth Amendment violation if they shut that down and they engage you. And so just something to think about. But at the end of the day, I just think that we all have to be vigilant and be careful, and we all have our own tolerances with respect to the risk we take
And
for protecting the
situations, right?
Constitution.
Yeah.
And so, do what you can to protect the Constitution and your own rights, because it starts with protecting your own rights. Because if you roll over and the next guy rolls over, the police will expect us all to roll over.
Right. I mean, and again, it's not for the weak of heart. It's not, you there's a good chance you're gonna go get arrested, especially in Florida. There's a good chance you're gonna get arrested. You're gonna take you're gonna take the ride down to the jail. You're gonna have to hire an attorney, the state's attorney. Again, they all work together, so the state's attorney is not just gonna drop the case because you didn't do anything wrong. I was very naive when I first started. I'm like, oh, here unlawfully arrested me. This will be dismissed at my next hearing, and they'll realize they messed up. No, they will drag it out. They will
They'll
fight
drag
you
it
every.
out.
Yeah, I was
Well,
so
that's what
naive
the
when I
other
first
gentleman
started.
said, is that it's not just the officer, it's the chief, it's just the DA or the
Right.
prosecuting attorney. They're all in this together, right? Because at the end of the day, the officer has his own discretion to leave you alone and ignore you and just do his
Well,
job.
a good example of that, David, is the last live we did was the gentleman in the boat who was stone cold sober, had every resource imaginable, his own attorneys, and he actually knew the police chief, and he sat on one of the governor's councils, and one of his partners was the former governor, and yet none of them could get him out of that incident. And it ended up coming up that he was not intoxicated, and he doesn't drink, and he had no drugs in his system after they tested him, but yet he still got arrested. Pulled out of that incident with his family where he was out boating, took him, put him in jail. He's got a mug shot and a rap sheet, and just really kind of ruined him. And, that happens every single day to people across this country, and we always think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. That guy thought the same exact thing. He was, he had money, he's, I don't want to say wealthy because maybe he's wealthy, but he had resources.
The guy's wealthy, Andy. Come on.
He's
got
wealthy.
a boat.
Okay, well, I don't know his situation. I'm just saying I would assume he's wealthy. He's $250,000+ boat. But he had all the resources to assist him. And even in those types of scenarios, you still end up taking a ride in the back seat. I mean, it's crazy. And it was all at the discretion of that officer. And that's what's interesting, is that we keep putting the discretion in these guys or gals' hands. And where's the training? Because this guy was a specialist. He mentioned he had special training. This was his thing.
And he was never wrong.
He couldn't have been further from the truth than anybody. I mean, that was the worst case of specialty training that I think I've ever seen in my life, was in that type of incident. This guy was so wrong. Well, how are you a specialist with all of that specialty training and make it so wrong? Your assumption is so wrong to arrest this guy. This happens all the time. There's just thousands and thousands of people who have these types of incidents every year, and they go to jail, and families are ruined, their lives are ruined, and it cost them a ton of money. And it's just sad. It's sad that we've come to this, and I hope that we make a lasting impression to where we can change this. As Sean was saying, what's our legacy? And our legacy is to help change these things, and training and all the different things, and providing people legal assistance. This information that these attorneys are providing when they get connected through our technology is very important. I mean, we are able to really help folks like they've never been able to be helped before in history. They now have backup too. And that's what I always say. We have backup now too, because the first thing they'll do is get on the radio and call in 2, 3, 4 other officers to, control the situation. But we're always stuck out there by ourselves. we're sitting on the bench alone, trying to take on a team of folks who, are violating our rights in a lot of cases. So, I'll yield my time back there, but.
So I want to get to this question really quick. Somebody said, "What
Yeah,
if
go
you're stopped
ahead.
by law enforcement? Can you record?" I think that's a really good question, because if it's meant to have this buffer zone of 25 feet with harassing and everything, and I'm sure they will consider you recording harassing them. I'm almost positive of it. So it's a good question, right? And I think that's why this law is going to be struck down in the federal courts. Again, you never really know. Each district is different, and then you can appeal to the circuit court, and then eventually the Supreme Court. I don't really have much hope for any of our courts all the way up to the Supreme Court to do the right thing for the people. They've been taking away our rights. This is about talking about our constitutional rights are under attack. They are. Every single one of these cases now they are coming out with, they are taking away our constitutional rights. There was a recent case by the Supreme Court where they said that they can, certain public officials, if you're not talking about a specific post, say a town supervisor, for example, makes a Facebook post about building roads, and then you talk about them, how the roads aren't built, and they're really shitty roads, and they're horrible, they got potholes in them. You can do that. That's protected. But if now they post about those roads and you're talking about their affair and the corruption and how they're stealing money and from other topics, the Supreme Court said that they can block you and delete your comments because it's not pertaining to the certain post. So again, little by little, and this is why I want America to really wake up, is little by little our rights are being infringed upon. That's why we need to exercise our rights, because we're really going to lose them, and we need to challenge laws like this. We need these state governments like Florida and Arizona, these governments that are passing these kind of laws into this legislation into law, is to let them know that we're not going to take it. We're not going to allow it. We need to take the power back and understand that we need to hold our public servants accountable, our elected officials, our law enforcement officers, whatever they may be. And, at the end of the day, I will be challenging it. I hope there's others that challenge it, but know your situation. Again, people ask me to do First Amendment training courses and all these things, like, teach me how to do this. And, I've thought about it, but I really don't want to be responsible, because I got really, really lucky. I'm very blessed to have a platform with over 1.5 million across all my social media channels, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And with that comes exposure. And that helps me. And then, I generate revenue, which helps me pay for attorneys, which helps me pay to travel and et cetera. But I'm recently I'll go into this more on another video, but I'm being targeted by my town. So now, I have code enforcement officers coming to my house, checking to see if my driveway is like perfectly to code. And I got 25 tickets the other day, left on, 25 tickets. And it's ridiculous. It's like, now I got to go fight these tickets now from the town, because I said I was running for the town supervisor. I was considering running for the town supervisor. Next thing I know, and I'm calling out the town that I live in, town of Brookhaven, and next thing I know, I get all these tickets. So it's clear retaliation, and it's so hard to fight that. And now I'm definitely running for town supervisor, by the way. But it's it's ridiculous, and you have to be willing, if you want to put if you want to really put your freedom and your life on the line, really, because one of these officers can unalive me. You never know. Oh, I saw him pull something out of his pocket, and then what are they going to do? They're not going to get in trouble, and it's just really, really sad. And
Yeah,
at the end
not
of the
even when
day,
they make that fail. Even if they make a fatal mistake, we see that 92% of officers don't even get reprimanded, let
right.
alone charged. Whenever there's a weapon or a service revolver involved death, or even with tasers or chokeholds and whatever. What I'll say is this, with respect to the Constitution being under attack, and us seeing in real time a slow erosion of our civil liberties and rights. When I grew up on a farm, and so we sort of grew our own food, had our own animals, did our own things. We had guns, right? We'd go hunting. Not even hunting with like the vest. This was like redneck hunting where you just go out in the woods, for 15 minutes, kill something and bring it back, right? And so, at the end of the day, it's hard to live that way anymore, and that's actually just so the way humans were meant to live, right? And so today you can't have chickens in your yard because that's against some city ordinance.
Right.
You can't sell your excess vegetables and fruits on the corner without having a permit. And look, some of that's reasonable, I suppose, right? For safety purposes, they always use safety, right? But whatever. But then we survived, and we're surviving, if you will, the Patriot Act, where none of our data is actually private anymore. Your government knows more about you than you know about yourself, right? And so here we go again, another erosion of rights where we can't even hold our government account by filming them, with a smartphone or a camera. Where does it stop, guys? Like, where does it stop? Where does it stop? And I don't have an answer for that. But what I know is every time we give them more power, give our government more power to surveil us, our government more power to arrest us, and more power to tell us how to live and what to say and what not to say. Every time we give them that, what we have to do at that point, if we want to roll that back, is we got to fight for it, because nobody cedes power willingly. You have to fight for power.
Right.
Nobody who has power is going to say, yeah, we took it too far. We feel like we've got enough power right now. We're going to give some of that back to the people. You will never see that day come. So you have to fight for it. And so the best way to fight it is to, when you see the government rearing its ugly head to take away another right, you got to speak up. You got to do something about it. And that's what Attorney Shield's mission is all about.
All right. I'm so
What's
proud
the
to be a part of
population
it.
there, Sean?
I
What's the
really am.
population of your town?
Yeah, just really quick. I want to really quick, Andy. I just want to say they reminded me in the chat that Sergeant Brian Fahey, who is going to be deposed, by the way, soon, so stay tuned. That's going to be great. He's an unhinged lunatic. But he didn't say it at the time. He said it after the fact, that he thought that my camera was possibly a firearm or a taser. And he actually, even in his internal affairs report, he actually included a link to a phone from Amazon that could be converted into a taser or a firearm or whatever. It was ridiculous. He's a ridiculous clown. Stay tuned for that federal lawsuit. It's crazy. It's taken forever, but I public to answer my question. I just wanted to make sure I got everybody's questions. There was some questions, I didn't miss them, about Attorney Shield, some technical difficulties. If you have any sort of technical difficulties, I'm not going to hide from that. Just if you are ever emailed support at attorney-shield.com, support at attorney-shield.com, you'll understand that we answer you immediately. Our team is really good at answering, at really, getting to the root of the problem. So if that's the case, just let us know. We're quick to, we don't run from anything. We want to confront everything head on, and we want to fix everything that we can. Much love. Thank you so much. So any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here? I don't want to make this too long. We've already been here for 57 minutes. I love talking to you guys. We could do this more often whenever you guys want. It's not a big deal. I love talking to the people. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was gonna say, go follow us over at or on YouTube over at the Attorney Shield channel. We'll be posting some additional stuff.
Yeah, man. They're posting some interesting content.
We try not to clutter up Sean's channel, because I know he's got important work to do. So David and I will be doing some stuff over there. We'll have some updated videos, the stuff that Sean and them don't put out. So we'll have some different content. And David and I will probably be doing some lives over there. And Sean and Lapa join us.
Yeah, I left the link, just so you know, guys. I left the link to the Attorney Shield YouTube channel in the description below, right next to the link for my son's Instagram football.
I've already followed
For my son's Instagram, Long Island Elite, right here. You see it, Long Island Elite.
Congratulations!
We are champions. We are champions.
Nice.
I'll take some of my son's glory that he got today. I'm wearing the ring. If you can see it here. Oh,
there we go.
very cool. I feel like a Super
We
Bowl
didn't get
champion.
those
My
when I
son
was
got
a
a
kid.
sack in the game, good tackles. He played amazingly at defensive end. The opposing team. This is what you really want, right? The opposing team coach came to my son after the game and he said, "Hey, you're the real defensive MVP, man. You were flying around that field." And it makes me a proud dad. I don't talk about my family much on my channel. I like to keep that separate. But I've been here in Texas for the last 4 days, going to games, lost my voice screaming, and I'm so proud of my son. I've left the link to his Instagram and go follow it, please. He'll be so excited. I'm sure he's excited right now. He's watching right now. I'm sure he's excited for you guys to follow him, follow his journey. And guess what? One day, Mason Reyes, number 9, he's going to be something to talk about. So he's going to be in the
Hey,
NFL.
Sean,
He's
do a
going to be doing big
refresh on that real quick.
Huh?
Do a refresh on that. I want to see if he hit
Oh,
his.
let's see. Yeah, let's see. Let's do it.
I'm showing him.
He had 80 when I first started. 114. So he had 80 when I first started. So the link is in the description. Go follow him on Instagram. Please go do it. And help me be the best dad ever.
There you
That's what we
go.
all want, right? We love our kids. We want to be the best dad ever. You can see this. This is them coming out of the game today. Really cool.
Yes,
I'll show you
sir.
which one's my son right here. I'm so proud of him, man. It's really great. It's where is he? Where is he? Number 9, you missed him, but he was in there. Number 9, Mason Reyes. They went undefeated, 3-0. I'm so excited. Let me know in the chat in the comment section. Just hype him up. Go Mason. Go Long Island Elite. And I'm so used to plugging myself. So no, Long Island Elite, it's a great program. If you're from Long Island, town of Brookhaven. The town of Brookhaven, real quick before we go. The town of Brookhaven is retaliating against me. I'm going to run for town supervisor in 2027. I got the billboard truck already. I got a lot of people that are ready to support me. Why not? And then, we're going to take care of all this retaliation that's happening by the town of Brookhaven. When I was growing up, I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Brookhaven on Long Island. And when I was growing up, I remember when I was young, they were saying, oh, my mom used to say like, oh, this is Crookhaven. It used to be called Crookhaven. And, it's true. Unless you pay them, bribe them, donate to their campaigns, do this and that, they're going to harass you. And because I started exposing and talk about running for town supervisor and all these other things, I'm being retaliated against. And it's not something where, I'm filming and I'm 10-0 in my criminal cases while auditing. And, I don't know how this one's going to play out because I don't know. I don't know the codes. I don't know these stupid town codes about driveways and XYZ. It's too far off the property line. So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned for that. Maybe I'll put a billboard truck in front of the town supervisor's house next. We'll see what happens. If you're from Crookhaven, let me know.
Hey, Sean, with respect to that, that type of corruption occurs in the shadows or in the cover of darkness. And by you going into that, it'll shine some light onto it. So there you go.
Right. Yeah. I can't wait to do that. I really can't wait to do it. Well, guys, David, Andy, I can't wait we'll have more discussions on the Attorney Shield YouTube channel. I'm sure we'll have more discussions on my channel, maybe Lackluster's channel. He missed us today. I guess he was experiencing technical difficulties. Lackluster was supposed to be here with us, but I really appreciate you guys talking. I love your insight. I know you guys are passionate about this, police accountability, police reform, fundamentally changing policing in America. And I'm so glad you guys reached out to me and we created this together and we were able to Attorney Shield together and we were able to grow it to where it is today. I'm excited for the future. 2025, baby. Let's do it.
That's right.
Take care,
All
guys.
right. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Peace.
No problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here. I am going to be getting out of here. I have to go celebrate with my son for being 3-0. Let's go. All right. I'm so excited. You have no idea. If you have kids, you understand. But I'm so excited and I love football, so it works out. So anyway, as always, stay safe. God bless. I'll see you in the next one. Long Island Audit. Peace.